I really mean it. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. You're very kind. Thank you. Thank you. Good. Thank you for that. Thank you for that very generous introduction. Like a lot of you, I won the gene pool. I had a remarkable mother and father. And my mother was a quiet, determined, 5'1" Irish lady named Catherine Eugenia Finnegan Biden. But she had a backbone like a ramrod. And that was her expression. But she had another one, and I really mean it. Every time things would get bleak, she said, Joey, as long as you're alive, you have an obligation to strive, and you're not dead till you've seen the face of God. And the truth of the matter is, I am honored to be here with you tonight. You are a room full of really generous, decent, honorable people. And if she were here, she'd look at you and say, you're doing God's work. And you really are. You are doing remarkable, remarkable work. And I was asked to speak at the first one of these dinners, I think, one of the first ones by Terry back in 2005. And I couldn't be prouder to be given an opportunity to be back to speak to you again. Folks, I look and see how much this advocacy has grown, Reverend. You've put together two operations here that have just grown. And I start off with the proposition, everybody kids me in the Senate and the White House. I was always referred to as Jimmy Knows, as the optimist. And as my grandfather would say, as if I were the guy that just fell off the turnip truck yesterday. But I've been doing this longer than most people have, but I am optimistic. I'm optimistic because I'm convinced that most people are basically decent and good. And given exposure to understand what is needed, they usually step up and do the right thing. They're decent. And the one thing my dad used to say was the worst of all things for a parent is to turn around and look at a child and realize there's nothing you can do to help that child. Whether it's an opportunity that you can't afford to afford them, whether go to college or school, or whether it's when they're sick and there's nothing you can do to help them. But the most helpless thing in my many times at the UN speaking to leaders from around the world is I was watching from out in the hallway, Reverend, your time in the camp, is for a parent to look at a child and know, I can't feed you. I can't feed you. And so what you have done, the advocacy coming through Bread for the World and the Alliance to End Hunger, you've been doing over the years is most important thing anyone can do, in my view, is give people hope. Just hope. Just a little bit of hope. My son, for years, was chairman of the World Food Program USA, and it was among the most meaningful things that Hunter's ever done, that he cares so much about. So I want to start by thanking every one of you for your commitment, and perhaps most critically, to the moral and strategic investment you're making in our future. Ending hunger and malnutrition at home and around the world is consequential in more than just making sure people don't die from hunger. Nutrition, as we all know, is the foundation, the basic fundamental foundation upon which every child's future is built. I mean, it's just basic. I met with two lovely doctors and husband and wife in the photo line, and we talked about how, between conception and 2 years of age, you have a whole new DNA stamped into you based on whether or not you have adequate nutrition. It's fundamental. Not only can it stunt a child's physical growth, but there's overwhelming evidence, as you all know, that it can negatively impact on cognitive capability, health, lifespan. It can be determined in those first 2 years in a significant way. And you know that in part because of the work you do and the timeless commitment so many of you have made by raising awareness and advocacy and on your part with lawmakers to try to educate them, to understand what it is that's at stake. I apologize. I spent too much time the last month and a half going around the country. Reverend, as they say in my church, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been 2 weeks since my last confession. I remember during our administration, my good friend Terry Meehan, and he is a good friend, he has a heart of gold, who's here tonight, came to see me in the vice president's office. You may not remember, Terry, I think you do. It was 2009, and it was not long after the Great Recession had caused the significant rise you referenced in food prices, and the corresponding spike in the number of people around the world who were going hungry. Terry came to me early in that year and indicated, which I think we knew, but he brought home, we were going to have a really big problem when school let out that summer in 2009. And his plea was we had to expand the summer feeding programs around the nation. And so I pulled together, at Terry's instruction, the relevant federal agencies. The one good thing about being, as a lot of you know, because it's now gone from urban legend to everybody knows it, that when Barack asked me to be vice president, I said, no, I didn't want to be vice president. All the vice presidents is standby equipment. But he indicated why he wanted me. But the great thing about Barack was when he gave me authority, he gave me presidential authority. I was able to hire and fire and do whatever it was because we had great trust and faith in one another. And so we pulled together all the relevant federal agencies to do what we needed to do to expand coverage and make sure more kids who depend on school lunches continue to have access to nutrition during those summer months. And that was just the first of the efforts that came forward. I could share with you that demonstrates a core truth that about hunger and food insecurity. It isn't some insurmountable challenge, as you referenced. It's all within our power. It's within our capacity to deal with this. This is not like having to reinvent something fundamentally different and new. We know how to do this. And last year, about 12% of the households in the United States of America were food insecure. 12%, 12 out of 100, insecure. It's simply unacceptable that 40 million Americans, so many of them children, don't know where their next meal is coming from. And that's a reality. That's the truth of it. And we need to support and fund national programs to promote, I know we all know this, SNAP and WIC, but we need some common sense steps to make sure people can earn a fair wage, to get a good job, to be able to pay for their family's food. We need to take on societal issues like immigration reform and criminal justice reform. And I'm not going to turn, this is not a partisan political speech. I really mean it. This is not Democrat or Republican. But all these things fit together, and sometimes we sort of segregate them out as if they're able to be managed individually. And to address the factors that compound and disproportionately concentrate food insecurity among Latinos and African American communities. We have a moral obligation to help because if you can't feed your family, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. As my dad would say, and Jimmy's heard me say this before, it's about dignity. It's just about simple dignity. Think about it. You do think about it. More people should think about it. How we strip people of their dignity when they're incapable of being able to feed their families, feed their children. It's about parents being able to look their child in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. When my dad, if you listen to Barack, you'd think I climbed out of a coal mine in Scranton carrying a lunch bucket. But when coal died in Scranton, the economy died. And my dad was a white-collar salesperson, high school educated, well-read gentleman. But there was no work. And I remember him taking us over to my grandpa's house. And it took a lot of gumption to go to my grandfather and his 4 brothers-in-law and say, can you take care of Gene and the kids? It's going to take about a year. I'll come home every weekend, but I'm going down to Wilmington. I'm going to find a place. And when I get settled, I'll bring them all down, but I'll come home every weekend. And I remember him saying to me, it's only 157 miles, Joey. I thought that was like going to the moon. And after that, we got settled down in a little town called Claymont, Delaware, a little steel town. There's no steel anymore. Anybody, when there was a recession, somebody in the family, some friend, somebody lost a job. And my dad would always characterize it the same way. He'd look at us and say, Joey, remember, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. It's about who you are. And then he'd say, it's about being able to look your child in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. And mean it. And mean it. So folks, you know, we can't pull back. The one thing we know for sure, if we do nothing today, food insecurity will loom as an even larger and bigger threat tomorrow. So I want to thank Bread for the World and the Alliance to End Hunger for all you've done to lobby Congress and to help beat back the significant cuts proposed at the State Department and USAID, which I find to be the most mindless things we're doing. And for your efforts to make sure that the work we started in our administration with Feed the Future programs can continue. You know, I know many of you in this room, and I know many of you personally, and you've taken up this mantle, and you're carrying the fight forward with distinction and a lot of passion. And you're fostering a world that is more just and peaceful, and in turn makes us a more secure nation and more secure for our kids. You know, folks, the fact of the matter is, let me close my remarks by speaking briefly about the way forward and some of these critical issues, in my view, in this time of political transition and some chaos. Last week, Americans went to the polls in record numbers for the midterm election in order to make their voices heard. And now we're going to have a divided government in Washington, which means it's even more critical that we look for areas of consensus. It was referenced, but I have a bad reputation of liking an awful lot of Republicans. And if you notice, every time we were in trouble in our administration, I was the guy that went up on Capitol Hill. Not a joke, because all the members of the Congress, Democrats, remember, know I respect them, and you know that, Congressman. And I never question their motive. We can argue like hell about judgment. I never question their motive. But I think there's so much room for us to reach consensus on some critical issues in the United States that should not be at all partisan in nature. And for all the talk about this divided government, ending hunger should be one of the areas where Democrats and Republicans could work together and drive real progress. You know, when you see it for yourself, children's shallow eyes and sunken cheeks, and you see the despair no person of conscience can turn away. As chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, the war in Darfur was going on. I flew into Chad in order to cross the border. And I remember getting off the UN plane, COD, where the back of the plane came down and we all walked out, and we landed in a dusty, dusty field. It was just all dust as far as you could see. And there were boulders marking the runway. And groups of tribesmen, somewhere between 50 and 150, was in the camps across the border, came running up. And they couldn't even see us. The dust covered us. And as the dust cleared, you could hear in English, "America's here, America's here, America's here." The rest of the world's looking to America. They know we have the capacity. And you go into those camps and you see those children and you see the starvation. You see the terrible loss. It doesn't matter whether that child is a Yemeni or in South Sudan or just living around the corner from your home here in New York. There's always been a bipartisan concern. I go back to the days when we not only worked with one another, but we liked one another. One of my best friends in life has turned out to be Bob Dole. I still see him all the time, Republican leader. Remember when Bob and George McGovern put together and led the effort to deal with hunger here at home and abroad? They understood instinctively that when your children go hungry anywhere, they grow up in backbreaking poverty and want. And these are not someone else's children, they're our children. They're the kite strings that lift our national ambitions aloft. They're our children. They're our children. And we used to understand that in a bipartisan way. And we can make a difference because we've done it before. I need not tell you at Cargo, we have the science. We have the know-how. And we know which policies work and which don't. We just have to summon the political will to act. I truly believe, and I mean this sincerely, from the bottom of my word is abide, and I believe this with every fiber of my being. There's nothing beyond our capacity in this country. There's nothing beyond our capacity. I'll be very blunt with you. I'm so tired of Democrats and Republicans, professional Democrats and Republicans, walking around with their heads down like, woe is me. My God, we have such trouble. Folks, I've been doing this my whole adult life. We are better positioned to lead the 21st century than any time in our history. By far. There's not another nation that, as they say in Claremont's, a patch on our genes. And Madeleine Albright was right. We are the essential nation. We really are. Folks, it's not that we have the strongest military in the world. That's not how we've led. We've led by not the example of our power, but the power of our example is what has said the rest of the world repair to us. We have more great research universities in the United States of America than all the rest of the world combined. As my wife, the professor, would say, Google it. Not a joke. Every major life-changing thing has come out of a university, not out of a corporation, out of a research university. Every major laboratory. We're the most productive workers in the world, 3 times as productive as folks in Asia. That's not a criticism of them, it's a recognition of the reality where we are. We're the wealthiest nation in the world. What the hell's the matter with us? No, I really mean it. Why do we walk around, Democrats and Republicans? Why do we walk around like, whoa, I don't know, what are we going to do? For God's sake, let's just get up. Remember who the hell we are. Remember what we're capable of. And folks, it's all in our self-interest as well. I had a great friend named Lawton Childs, a senator from they called him Walking Lawton from Florida. And I remember I was a young senator. I was number 100 in seniority. He had gotten there 2 years earlier. And there was an amendment that passed. We were sitting on the floor, and he was really excited. I said, I thought I missed something. I said, what's all important about that amendment that just passed? And he looked at me and said, Joe, it's so seldom when conscience and convenience cross paths, you should celebrate. Well, we're at that place, guys. I mean, for real. We're at that place where conscience and convenience has crossed paths. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to deal with American security? You cannot guarantee American security when there's hunger in the world. It means war. It means devastation. Not a joke. I'll end by saying when we became president, we went over what they call in the tank over in the Pentagon with the chiefs of staff. You know what we were told was the greatest threat to the United States of America? Global warming. Global warming. Sea levels rise 1.5 feet. You have somewhere in order of 75 million people having to move. That's when wars happen, like in Darfur. That's when security breaks down. I'm taking too much of your time, but look, folks, in my view, we're a nation defined by possibilities. I've spent more time with Xi Jinping of China than any world leader has. Over 25 hours alone with him. Traveled 17,000 miles here and in Asia. We were in a town called Chengdu on the Tibetan Plateau. And I had an interpreter and he had an interpreter. We're having dinner and he looked at me and he said, "Can you define America for me?" I said, "Absolutely." One word, and I mean it. Possibilities. Unlike any other nation in the world, think about this. Unlike any other nation in the world, we've always believed anything is possible. That's why we're the ugly Americans. That's why we're the chauvinistic Americans. But we have believed and we've demonstrated anything we set our mind to is possible. And folks, it seems to me that we have to begin to dream a little bit bigger. We have to begin to deliver on our promises. We just have to remember who we are. And it falls to all of us here in this room and the thousands of congregations you represent across the country, the 2.5 million activists and all the organizations you work with, to remind the rest of America what we're capable of. Because, folks, success breeds success. Everybody wonder why I started this cancer initiative. One of the reasons the president let me start this cancer initiative was I'm convinced, think about this, in the last 15 years, people weren't thinking anything is possible. Most of us were raised in families, no matter what our backgrounds was, you can do anything. Well, an awful lot of Americans aren't so sure they can do anything. But guys, we're going to defeat cancer. We're going to change the face of cancer in the next 5 to 10 years. And one of the reasons I wanted to do it was not just because I lost my son, but because to demonstrate to Americans what we're capable of. Your success in ending hunger in America and around the world gives people so much hope about so many other aspects of their lives. So let me get out of your hair by saying that I really, truly, truly appreciate what you're doing. But I think you underestimate just how much you're doing. I think you underestimate what your success will mean in terms of everything, not only ending hunger, but world peace, stability, hope, hope, hope. Thank you very much. I love you for what you're doing.